Dawn breaks, but inside the monastery, Brother Thomas shivers, not just from cold, but from hunger. The bell for breakfast is silent. It is Lent, and for 40 days, hunger is the rule. Thomas tries to focus on prayer, but his stomach's growl is a constant distraction. Outside, in a smoky hut, peasant Ilara wakes her children. The fire barely warms them. No bacon, no eggs, just thin oat gruel and a few withered vegetables. Hunger is always present, but during Lent it's inescapable. The church is watching. God is watching. Every bite is judged. Even Sir Geoffrey, lord of the manor, faces a bare table. A single salted herring replaces the usual feast. His knights sit in silence, their appetites as sharp as their swords. This is a different kind of battle, a siege of the body, commanded by the Pope, not a king. Across the land, from castle to hovel, food becomes a spiritual trial. Faith dictates every meal, turning eating into a struggle between body and soul. The Church's rules are absolute. A single misstep could mean damnation. For millions, survival means more than finding food. It's about navigating a maze of religious law. Every meal is a test, and every hunger pang a reminder of faith's demands. In medieval life, the dinner table is a battlefield for the soul. The medieval calendar was a map of feasts and fasts, controlling nearly half the year. Fasting wasn't optional, it was a divine command, and breaking it was a sin. Every Friday, and often Wednesdays and Saturdays, were fast days. Lent, the most demanding fast, banned all animal products. No meat, no eggs, no cheese, no milk. For over a month, protein and fat vanished from the table. The Church taught that denying the flesh purified the soul, echoing Christ's suffering. Other fasts, before Christmas, Pentecost, and during Ember Days, added to the discipline. The rules varied, but the principle was the same. Control the body to save the soul. For most, this meant a diet of dense bread, pottage, and fish. The year swung between feasts, roasted meats, pastries, and fasts, coarse bread, salted fish, boiled vegetables. The shift was abrupt. One day, a noble feasts, the next, he faces dried cod. This cycle of indulgence and denial defined medieval eating. Food was never just food. It was a constant reminder of spiritual duty. The calendar's relentless rhythm shaped every life, every meal, every hunger. In this world, eating was always a moral act. The Church's rules were strict, but hunger inspired creativity. The definition of fish stretched to include anything aquatic. The barnacle goose, believed to grow from driftwood, was declared a fish and eaten during Lent. Beaver tails, scaly and aquatic, were also allowed, though the rest of the animal was forbidden. Puffins, living much of their lives at sea, sometimes made the Lenten menu too. If it swam, it counted. These loopholes let the wealthy enjoy variety, while peasants stuck to gruel and dried fish. The letter of the law was followed, if not always its spirit. For the rich, fasting became more bearable. For the poor, it remained a struggle. Even in faith, social hierarchy shaped the dinner table. In medieval life, every meal was a moral test. The Church taught that eating was fraught with spiritual danger, not just what you ate, but how and why. A knight, hungry after a long ride, must eat slowly and with restraint, lest he fall into gluttony. Every movement is watched, by companions, by God, by the saints. For a peasant mother, the test is harder: add an egg to the stew for her hungry children, or obey the fast and risk their weakness. Breaking the rules, even for love, brought guilt and fear of damnation. This scrutiny created anxiety around food. Hunger was a reminder of humanity's fallen state. Pleasure in eating was suspect, a distraction from the soul's true purpose. Every meal rehearsed the struggle between flesh and spirit. The dinner table was both altar and courtroom. Survival and salvation were always intertwined. Gluttony, for medieval thinkers like Thomas Aquinas, was more than overeating. It meant eating too soon, too much, too eagerly, too expensively, or too daintily. Even a small meal could be sinful if consumed with the wrong attitude. Monks ate one simple meal a day, slowly and in silence, turning eating into a spiritual exercise. Seeking luxury or elaborate food was vanity. Meals were for sustenance, not show. Monastic food was plain by design: bread, boiled vegetables, beans. The real battle was internal. Did you crave your meal or take too much pleasure in it? Policing thoughts and intentions was as important as following the rules. Gluttony was fought not just on the plate, but in the mind and soul. Every bite was a test of discipline. Spices were the jewels of medieval cuisine, rare, expensive, and dangerous in the eyes of the church. Their intense flavors and aromas were believed to tempt the soul toward gluttony and lust. Using spices was seen as flaunting wealth, a violation of Christian humility. Why spend a fortune on pepper when the poor starved? Spices were also linked to lust. Their heat was thought to inflame the body and mind. Monastic food was deliberately bland, using only salt and local herbs. In contrast, royal banquets overflowed with spiced meats and sauces, a display of power and worldliness. To the church, such meals were feasts for sinners. The contrast between plain and spiced food marked the divide between piety and pride. Even flavor became a battleground for the soul. The scent of cinnamon or ginger was more than temptation, it was a test. In medieval life, taste itself was suspect. The fork, now ordinary, was once a symbol of vanity and sin. Medieval people ate with hands and knives. The fork was foreign and suspect. When a Byzantine princess brought golden forks to Venice, clergy condemned her as decadent. St. Peter Damian called the fork an instrument of pride, unnatural and effeminate. Using a fork was seen as rejecting God's design. Real men touched their food. The fork separated eater from food, creating an unnatural distance. It took centuries for the fork to gain acceptance, spreading slowly from Italy to France and beyond. Even in the 17th century, English fork users were mocked. The humble utensil became a symbol of the struggle between tradition and change. In medieval life, even tableware was a moral battleground. Living under medieval dietary laws was a test of endurance, physical and spiritual. Peasants resisted temptation, accepting gruel and hard bread as a path to heaven. Monks practiced discipline as an art, rising before dawn, eating in silence, mastering hunger through prayer. Nobles, even with loopholes, had to submit to God's law, learning that true strength meant mastering desire. The dinner table was a training ground for the soul. Hunger was confronted and conquered by faith. Every meal was a lesson in self-control, a battle as real as any fought with swords. The struggle between appetite and faith shaped medieval life. Survival and morality were inseparable. The medieval table reminds us the hardest battles are often within,